Hey everybody, and welcome to the Midnight Frightcast, episode 5. That's right, we're up to number 5 with the new season here. This is Patrick, hanging with you this evening, and with me at the table I have...
Josh, hey, what's up?
Hey everybody.
We're going to fire one off, real quick. It was like an unplanned Frightcast tonight. So, we watched a movie, we watched the same movie. So we're like, let's have a little chatterbox. So, yep.
Yeah. Over the weekend, I saw a plethora of movies.
Yeah.
And even braved the ice and went out and saw Underworld at the theater.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure it was worth risking my life, but that'll be another podcast at some point. We'll be talking about that one, I believe.
We should hit that whole franchise.
Right. But tonight, movie that we're going to talk about is I'm Not a Serial Killer.
Yes.
This one dropped on Netflix. I believe that's where you can see it right now.
Yep.
And I know, Josh, you had seen this before I had.
Yeah, I watched it a few weeks ago, and then I rewatched it today.
Okay.
So I did the second viewing.
All right, so it's probably fresher in your mind than it was for me, because I think I saw it this last Saturday, so it's been a few days since I've seen it. But I saw the trailer for it. It looks super intriguing, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to watch it. I saw some really killer movies this weekend. This one and Autopsy of Jane Doe was also pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, the one we're talking about right now is I'm Not a Serial Killer. I'm going to read off the synopsis here for it. 16-year-old John Wayne Cleaver is not a serial killer, but he has all the makings of one. Keeping his homicidal tendencies and morbid obsessions with death and murder in check is a constant struggle that only gets harder when a real serial killer begins terrorizing his sleepy Midwestern town. Now, in order to track down a psychopath and protect those around him, John must unleash his darkest inner demons. Based on the cult novel by Dan Wells, this twisted genre-bending thriller co-stars Christopher Lloyd and Breaking Bad's Laura Fraser.
Okay, I didn't know what she was from.
Mm-hmm.
But, so she's from Breaking Bad.
She's from Breaking Bad, yep.
And
real quick, tomato meter, 93%.
Okay.
The critics love this movie.
Yeah, it landed on a ton of lists.
Right.
Everybody's list in 2016. It was like somewhere
right.
on that list.
The audience review on Rotten Tomatoes was 62%, which is pretty high for an audience review, and IMDb has it at 6.2, so it's above average.
Yeah, it's like out of the gate. I didn't read the synopsis, so I didn't know a ton about the movie other than what I kind of heard from other people. So. That's the tumbling of the upstairs. So I don't know a ton about the movie. I went into it blind, and there's a lot about this movie where if you don't know a lot about it, you're kind of going, okay, what? It kind of keeps you guessing a little bit as to who the killer kind of is, and then out of the gate, it just doesn't hide it anymore.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Not even I don't even think the halfway.
It wasn't even halfway through, exactly.
You know, right out of the gate, who's doing everything. This is one movie, we usually do spoilers on this movie, on this podcast. I don't want to do it tonight because the movie was 2016.
Right,
so
it's pretty fresh.
So there's still a big opportunity for everybody to go out and check out the flick and enjoy it for themselves. So I don't want to give a ton of spoilers, but it does tell you who the killer is not even halfway into the movie.
Now, for the subgenre of this movie, would you consider it a horror sci-fi horror, that type of thing?
Yeah.
I mean that's not a spoiler by doing that.
No, not at all. It's barely if you put, it's 5% sci-fi.
Right.
Really.
Right.
It's barely sci-fi, and I want to get to that point here, and after we kind of get through the rest of the movie, but it's it's slasher, right? Is it slasher? It's I don't know.
I can't really put it as a slasher yet either.
I don't know if it's even really horror. Really, it's horrific.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a lot of brutal parts in the movie.
Oh, most definitely.
But
most
I
definitely.
still don't know if you call it horror. And if you call it horror, the closest to me is slasher.
Right.
That's the closest it gets for me. And then, yeah, like you said, there is that sci-fi element in there, kind of.
Oh, and it also has the thriller element to it as well, because it does have some moments where there's some it builds up at different places, and I think that's really effective in this movie. I've never seen this young man before that plays the lead.
Okay, so he was in Where the Wild Things.
Okay, that's probably why I've never seen that.
Okay, so he was. I actually never saw that movie. I went back and IMDb'd him because his name's Max. God damn it,
Max Records.
Yeah, which is out of the gate like a great name. That's just a great name anyway.
Oh, so he was a kid actor then, child actor.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know anything else he's really from other than Where the Wild Things Are, and then is that what it's called? Where the Wild Things.
Where the Wild Things Are.
Yeah, and then I Am Not a Serial Killer. So, but yeah, he's in that, and he is really good. Like he is like I don't know how they cast this movie, but they found, as far as I'm concerned, for whoever to play this character, who's named after John Wayne Gacy. By the way, is the kid is perfect in the movie. He's great, and the other thing I loved was Christopher Lloyd plays weird characters. Okay, you know him from Doc from Back to the Future, and
for us older people from Taxi. Yeah.
And then he was, for me, he was in a movie called The Pagemaster.
Oh yeah.
He played the wizard.
Wizard. Yeah.
So I know him from like just really weird roles, and then so it was a lot of fun for me because this role for him was way different than anything I've really ever seen him in, and like Christopher Lloyd, I don't know how old he is now.
So he's in his early 70s.
He is like, he killed this movie.
Yeah.
He was great in it, and it was super like he played a super dark character. And it was just different from anything I had seen him do.
Yeah, I think he runs better on that treadmill than I can at my age.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's
It looks like Max Records' other claim to fame was The Sitter with Jonah Hill.
Okay, I didn't see that movie.
Yeah, so those are two reasons why I've never seen this actor before.
Gotcha. And like that had, I wonder how old he is because Where the Wild Things Are isn't even that old of a movie, and then I don't think. And then The Sitter's in between there, and he wasn't that old in that movie, it didn't look like.
No.
So...
Yeah, and supposedly he was also in The Brothers Bloom, which is another movie I've not...
Yeah, I don't know that.
Or
I don't know that
something like that, yeah.
So, the cast is... the point is the cast is fantastic in this movie.
One of the best parts for him, I felt, when he was addressing the bully at the dance.
At the dance, yeah.
And he was explaining about him being a sociopath.
Yeah.
And what that meant.
Yeah, the
cardboard box. Cardboard box reference was fantastic, well written, extremely well acted.
Yeah, this is a really well written. That's the other thing I was going to say. Yeah, it's a super well written movie. I like the one quote that I found that even before I looked up kind of quotes of this movie, the quote that stuck out to me was when he's in the principal's office getting the paper.
Right.
And he's like, I'm just wondering how many times you can say the word normal in referencing this paper that he wrote. I was like, quotes like that, it's just like, it's a really well-written movie.
Written and directed by Billy O'Brien. Is that a name that sticks out to you?
No, not at all. And I should have IMDb'd him, too, because I don't know his credits, but this one kicked ass pretty hard. And I didn't know it was also, this movie's based off of a book.
Right.
Which I didn't know, and now I want to go find the book, too. Because I want to see. I'm always curious to see how close a novel is to when it is adapted into a movie, and what they cut and what they kept, and just how they adapted it from book to screen. I'm always curious about that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
especially in the horror genre.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Billy O'Brien's thing here on IMDb. Movies: Scintilla, Ferocious Planet, Isolation, The Tale of the Rat That Wrote. The Wind. These are movies I have never heard of before.
Nothing. So it's a pretty big jump then from just stuff you've never heard of to, and again, I'm Not a Serial Killer played on the independents. It wasn't like a huge theatrical release movie. It was just, I think he finally got one that just popped.
Right.
And just got talked about all over the place. So.
you touched on Christopher Lloyd a bit.
Yeah.
To me, that's the reason I wanted to see this movie. When I saw the trailer, I said, holy shit, is that Christopher Lloyd?
Yeah.
And I checked it out on IMDb. Yes, it is. And I said, well, shit, I'm going to watch this.
Yeah.
I want to watch this. And he did. He knocked it out of the park as a role that we've never seen him do before, or at least I've never seen him do before. The man, it's hard to say that this man never ages because he's been old since he was like 25.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, when he was doing Taxi, he looked like he was older than what he was. When he
Yeah.
did Back to the Future, he definitely looked older than what he was. And he's always played these older characters. So I think he's finally kind of grown into his own look
Yeah.
and did this. There was some, the scene at I believe it was at a diner. Is that where it was where the police came in?
Oh, no, it was at a barber shop.
A barber shop,
Yeah,
that's what it was.
yeah.
Yeah, right. And it was just amazing
Yeah.
how he went from one emotion to the next.
He switches real quick.
He
Yeah,
switches
it's cool to
very
watch,
quick.
too,
Yeah, it was very cool to
Because
watch.
it's all done, like, it's no dialogue. You can just watch him, like, it's all in his face and in his eyes. He just
Right,
switches.
right.
And, yeah, it's...
And it was
he-
and it was also really really cool to see how the young man John Wayne Cleaver in this movie reacted to the things that he was seeing. Very honest, very open. It's hard to get that out of young actors, and I assume he's still fairly young.
Yeah, and it's super, like... The thing is, too, about his characters is there's not even a morbid curiosity about death anymore. He lives in a funeral home.
Right.
So it's interesting to see how he goes out to crime scenes. That was the other quote in the movie, was right at the beginning of the movie when the first body shows up, he makes a comment about wanting his mom wanting to drum up more business anyway. And that was the first, for me, like, I was like, okay, this kid's going out. Because it opens up on a crime scene that he is riding his bike away from.
Yeah.
And
Well, didn't the police ask him? Didn't they say, "Well, what do you think?"
yeah,
And he turns around and says, "Well, he's dead."
he's dead. Yeah, it's full of great quotes. But yeah, so out of the gate, I was like, okay, he has something to do with this because he's at the crime scene and he's gonna be starting to drum up more business for his mom with a funeral home that's about to close.
The other thing I liked about his character was, even though he's a sociopath, he was also showing that he can be afraid and that he does have love
Yeah,
for his family.
yeah.
I mean, that's a messed up family,
Yeah, it's
definitely.
the father issue,
Right.
and the sister.
The sister issue. Yep.
Yeah. So, the character is a very nice balance between incredibly like just screwed up but like you see him and you go, that could be the nicest kid in the world to somebody.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So, I mean, overall to me, this is a movie I definitely recommend.
yeah,
It kept me interested all the way through. I don't even know if I can find something critical about it.
no, I can't.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Because I just thought of something,
Yeah.
but can you do it without spoiling?
Exactly. I was going to ask you the same thing. Can we talk about the end without
Right.
giving away the end?
Right.
Because I talked to, I'll just say his name. He's not going to care. Benito watches and
Oh,
he
sure.
commented on this the other day. He loved this movie, and he loved the ending of this movie. And he was talking about how it wraps everything up so nice, and it explains so much. And I was like, and he didn't make that comment until I made a comment on his post. I was like, I love this movie. I hate the end of this movie. Like, I just don't know if I don't get it, or it doesn't know what it actually wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we were talking about that 5% of, like, sci-fi element.
Right. Right.
Because it goes, for me, it went off the rail
Mm-hmm.
at the last 13 minutes of that movie. It went off the rail
Right.
for me. And then, like, it reeled it back in kind of nicely at the end, but there was this, like, 5 minutes where I was like, what the fuck is this movie doing?
Right.
What,
Okay.
Why did you make that choice?
Right.
So,
See, and I tried to make sense of it.
Yeah.
And for me, it was about what he was willing to do for his wife, the young man was willing to do for his family. And that was anything.
Yeah, but does it again, I'm asking questions
I know.
without trying to give the
Yeah.
ending. Does it explain how that all transpires before it
I don't think
gets
it
to that
did.
point?
I don't
Like,
think it did.
Why
Yeah.
the fuck is he like that?
Yeah.
So, that's why I was like, there's movies, and I'll throw out a random director because I feel like his movies do this a lot. M. Night Shyamalan, minus The Sixth Sense, for me, it's like he writes a really great movie, and then he gets to the end, and he's like, I don't know how I'm going to end this movie, so just this random shit happens. The end. And that's where I felt like when I was watching the end of this movie, it's like they got to the end, and then they didn't know what they really wanted to do with it, and they wanted to make something interesting, so they just were like, and then this random shit happens. And then nice things happen again.
Right.
So that's my only critique of the whole movie. It's an hour and 45 minutes, and I have 5 minutes of what am I watching?
Okay.
So it's a pretty solid A for me though. Today was my second watch, and it's an easy watch too. Hour and 45 seems kind of long, but it's an easy sit.
Yes, it definitely is. It one that's going to end up on your shelf?
I don't even know I don't even know if it got released.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Outside of VOD, I have no idea. I haven't seen it. I'm sure it did. We just might live in a place where
we do live in a bubble.
Yeah, it might not have gotten picked up, which tends to happen.
All right.
So
thumbs up from both of us on I Am Not a Serial Killer. That's on Netflix right now. So if you have Netflix, jump on, watch it.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the next section then. We always try to come up with a question before we come to these things, something that we think about that is not necessarily a movie-specific related question. And we kind of threw this together at the last minute this morning.
Yeah.
Said, I don't know, what do you want to talk about?
Exactly, yeah. It's kind of like this whole podcast today. It's like, you want to do one? Maybe.
I don't know. And then I show up 40 minutes late for it, thinking that you said 7. I thought you said 7:30, and I'm still 10 minutes late for the 7:30 one.
So that's how we do it on the Friday.
Yeah.
So kind of go turn on the mics. Let's talk.
So as we were messaging each other back and forth, I happened to come up with this one. I said, "All right, let's talk about horror film remakes: the good, the bad, and the ugly."
Yeah.
And I think the way we're going to do this, we're going to talk about some good, we're going to talk about some bad, and from the bad, we're going to figure out what the most ugly is.
I'm going to actually bring up, I have a list written down, but I think I'm going to go back because I think there's things, I made a small list, and I think there might be things that are not on my list that are way uglier than the ones on my list.
You know, isn't that what usually happens? So you show up with a short list, I show up with a long list, so I don't know if I overperform or you underperform.
Well, it's like it might be me because Greg usually shows up with a pretty long list himself. He'll show up with I only brought 25 things on my list.
Only.
And then I'm over here like, I got 5.
Right.
Because, we try to keep it semi-short on here, but yeah, maybe, I don't know, I think 10's a good number. I underperformed today. Ask my wife. I do it all the time. So I brought up a different list because I have things that I didn't write down, like I said, that might be way uglier than what's on my bad.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah. You want to start? Or you want to go back and forth?
I think we can go back and forth. For the good, as I looked at these things, I didn't realize how many movies have been remade from older movies. And not just movies. You had pointed this out earlier this evening, was movies that were remade of other movies, but they changed the names, things like that. So I've got a couple of those on the list. But the ones that I have on my good list are ones that I've seen and I felt really good about, even though there's tons and tons of probably really good remakes out there.
Yeah.
I always have the issue, however, of doing a remake for the point of making a remake, saying, hey, this movie was really good back in the 1950s. We can make it better now.
Yeah.
There's some that should just be left alone. And I think that gets into our ugly area then.
I mean, my remakes were based off, if not only like, my remakes are basically, have I watched it more than once?
Right. Okay,
are
sure.
Are they rewatchable?
Right.
So.
Oh, that totally makes sense.
That's how I did it.
I'm going to start with The Hills Have Eyes.
Okay, well.
Was that on your list?
I actually didn't write it down. It was gonna. It just. I had it. I didn't write it down. But yeah, I totally agree. That's on the good, right?
That's on the good.
Yeah, that remake is fantastic. The original Wes Craven version is fantastic, but the remake held up, and it's easily watchable. So.
And sometimes it shocks me of. I wrote down the dates or the years of the originals and the new ones.
Yeah.
Hills Have Eyes, 2006, and the original was in 1977.
Okay.
And
78.
yeah, and that to me, it's like, I don't know, 77 seems like a really long time ago.
Yeah. I wasn't quite around yet.
Well, exactly. So, ouch.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be a dick, but
yeah, I only graduated from high school 10 years later.
But yeah, I totally agree.
And it's interesting because there was the Hills Have Eyes 2.
Yeah.
But there was an original Hills Have Eyes 2.
Did
So they remade both of them.
Yeah, okay. Oh, they didn't
Which I thought was interesting because the original was in 84 with the remake in 2007. So they came out with Hills Have Eyes in 2006 and then 2 in 2007, just within a year of each other.
I want to say they crossover the cast too. I think there were some cast members from the original that landed in the 2006 version. Don't quote me on that, but I feel like that happened. Some people say like that's people just not taking their own movie seriously, and they feel like they have to put in some cameos for other people to want to go watch that movie. But yeah, that remake held up. I own that one. I have that one. So
speaking of crossover from the originals, made me think of a movie we had already talked about earlier, back in Christmas, Black Christmas.
Yeah, is that on your list?
Well, I debated putting it on my bad list because the remake was absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
I did go back and watch the original.
Okay.
And the house mother from the remake was one of the sorority sisters in the original.
I think I remember seeing that in I watched a making of featurette.
Oh, okay.
I think I remember them talking about that.
So yeah, Black Christmas goes on my bad list, but that just I'm jumping over. I don't mean to, but it made me think of that with the crossover. Good. So jumping back to good.
My very first top one out of the gate. Well, no, I'm going to start with I think one of the best remakes, and Zack Snyder did a remake in 2004 of Dawn of the Dead, and it's the first time you saw zombies like run, and that you really got a sense of danger of. From like zombies, you see like Night of the Living Dead, they're all walking, and it's slow, and everybody's like, well, "Why don't you just run past them and leave them alone?" Zack Snyder introduced a zombie that fucking ran, and you're just like, and they run fast,
right?
And
it's like the introduction of rage zombies at that point. Yeah,
it's no more like a horde mentality of like you can't run past them because there's so many. You can't run past one because it will outrun you. Did 28 Days come before Dawn of the Dead? I can't remember.
28 Days, I believe, came after.
Okay, because if that's the case, then I'm wrong, because they ran in 28 days, but it was more of a virus than a zombie film. So, yeah.
Dawn of the Dead was 2004. 28 Days was 2000, so 28 Days did precede it.
Okay. So that's still, it's a virus thing in 28 Days, and they're zombies, and they're true zombies in Dawn of the Dead.
Right.
But for me, Dawn of the Dead, first time I was like, holy shit, this is fast, and it's like that movie jazzed me up. I was like, I saw that in the theater, and I was like, this is the shit. So, yeah, Dawn of the Dead, first one for me.
Yeah, I've got that one on my list as well.
Okay.
Let Me In. 2010, based on the Swedish film. I believe it was Swedish. Let the Right One in 2008. Solid movie.
Yeah.
All the way through. I saw the first one, the original, and I thought there's no way they can top this. I don't think they necessarily topped it, but it was a really, really solid flick.
Okay. I have to go back. I don't think I watched that movie all the way through. Yeah, I'm that one guy. So I have to go back and see if I can find. It's on. Is it on, you think it's on Netflix? I bet it is.
I couldn't tell you.
But I might have to go see if I can drum that movie up and watch it, because I hear how great it is, but I just am that one guy that was like, I'll start it, and then I never finished it.
Yeah,
so.
if it's not on Netflix, I think Tom has it.
Okay, yeah, I'll hit him up. He has everything. He has weird titles.
He really does.
My second one on my good list was Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead. So I love, Sam Raimi's Evil Dead. As campy as it is, it was like a whole new thing when that came out. It was something you hadn't really seen before. Fede Alvarez took that movie and made that shit dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no campiness to it.
Right.
Sam Raimi was a producer on it, so I'm sure he tried to keep a lot of the camp out of it.
Technically, didn't Sam Raimi remake his own movie with Evil Dead 2? Because didn't that kind of...
Yeah.
It was kind of the same story.
It was like, oh, this is really bad, but now we have more money, so
right.
we can kind of do it right this time. But then he went and did, Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness.
And, he really was like, it was, the whole series was very much like the combination of camp and horror.
Right.
Because even Evil Dead 2, there was some...
It was horror comedy.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Fede Alvarez took that movie, and so that guy's on fire with Don't Breathe that came out. But when I saw his version of Evil Dead, I was like, oh man, I'm in love with Evil Dead again. So, and the cast in that movie is great, and he did some weird stuff with it, like the whole drug addiction, heroin thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, there's just no excuse for that. We don't need that in there, but it was a new way to get. Because in the original, they were going out there, and that guy was going to propose to his girlfriend.
Right.
Remember?
Yep.
Now this is like I brought my sister out here because she's addicted to, I think it's heroin.
Right. It was something.
And it was some drug. And now we have to get her off the drugs or whatever. So that was the only thing, maybe, in that whole thing, I was like, this is kind of, there's no reason for that.
Right.
But, yeah, solid rock.
I've got next on my list, Halloween.
Yep, you hit it. That was my number one.
All right.
That was my top.
I don't know that it's my top, but it's right up there.
Yeah.
How can you take a movie as great as John Carpenter's original Halloween and do as well, if not better?
Yeah.
Zombie took it in such a great direction that it's hard to compare the two.
Yeah.
They're both awesome movies.
Yeah. And he took the first 5 minutes of John Carpenter's Halloween and stretched it out into a full hour.
Right.
Pretty much. The first hour of that movie is just Michael Myers as a kid. Which I like. I love the first hour of that movie. And then, Michael was, especially in Halloween 2, but he was way more brutal than you've ever seen him in any of those Halloween movies. He was just Tyler Mane is already, is big in general, but he was just, it felt like he was just way more brutal than I've ever seen him in any of those other Halloween movies. So, I love Rob Zombie's Halloween remake. Love it to death. So, my other two on here are super questionable.
But it's all. I mean, it's all.
They could.
It's
really,
personal. It's personal taste.
They could really sleep in between good and bad. It just depends on the day. So, I did put 2003's Texas Chainsaw Massacre on my list.
All right.
Yeah, exactly. The reaction right there already was like, all right, you're.
I think that's one that's on the fence for a lot of people, though.
It's watchable though, and what they did with the series, that reignited some Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies that came out afterwards that I actually really do enjoy. and Leatherface is coming out in 2017.
Right,
a new
right.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, which I'm excited for. I like that franchise. I like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like Tobe Hooper, you're not going to touch that. But I wouldn't say this is better, but it's definitely watchable. That I guess if you want to say villain, but like Leatherface is like one of the top movie monsters.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so,
Yep.
Yeah, that's on mine.
Okay. So you got one more on your list.
I got one more. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw in a couple here because I've got a longer list than you do.
Yeah.
The Crazies, 2010, based on the 1973 movie.
Okay.
Did I nail your other one? Or
No.
oh, okay.
Keep going.
The Crazies I thought was really good. Quarantine.
Okay.
Based on, I believe, based on Rec.
Yeah.
So that was a Spanish film, I believe Spanish, turned into English movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that one, so I thought that was a good move over. I'm going to go back to my high school years, The Fly with Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, because that was a remake of, was it like one made in the 50s?
1958.
Okay, yeah. I love The Fly.
Yeah.
That was a great remake.
And for all the effects that were in that and everything else for 1986, that was pretty darn good.
Yeah, and that's all practical effects. There's no CGI in that shit.
Right. The Thing, 2011,
Yeah.
original of 1982,
Yep.
was a decent remake. Definitely, this one's in there. This is probably more of a thriller than a horror, but Cape Fear.
Yeah. Is that De Niro?
De Niro.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
And before I get to my number one, where is it? Oh, here's another one that is. This one's obscure. Nobody has probably ever seen this. It's listening. Nosferatu the Vampire, which is a 1979 movie based on Nosferatu from 1922.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. You definitely went back.
I went way back for this one. This is a movie that I saw. The cinematography is outstanding, especially for 1979. They mimicked the original movie pretty damn well.
Okay.
And with Nosferatu being a groundbreaking movie when it was in 28 or 22, I just thought this was a really great remake.
But were they both black and white?
No.
The original was black and white.
The original, obviously. And yeah.
But so for some reason, because I saw Nosferatu on some lists,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "That's a fucking remake. I wonder if they remake that." And so yeah, I didn't know that there was a older
Right. Yeah.
Nosferatu.
Oh, yeah.
So,
But I haven't gotten my number one. Do you want to do your last one before I hit my number one?
I can go, or you can go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my number. It's not my number one. Halloween was my number one. I went in a really weird order. So I did put 2007's. Forgive me. I put 2007's remake of Friday the 13th on my list. Again, it's super watchable. Again, Jason's an iconic killer, and it was fun. It's fun. It's any Friday the 13th. Is fun to watch. It's just a fun camp movie, but there's no camp really in the remake at all. They took the camp in this kind of out, but I enjoyed the remake of Friday the 13th, so I put it on there. I don't even care. Shame me later.
Yeah, I won't shame you at all. My number one in the good category was The Ring. For some reason, that was just really, really effective. I don't think it could ever match the original Japanese version. Yep. For some reason, Japanese cinema, they know how to handle horror, the suspense that they build up, and almost every effect is practical.
Well, and they're ghosts in The Ring,
Mm-hmm.
and also what was The Grudge, are based off of like urban legends.
Right.
In Japan, I mean,
yeah.
So like, though that shit's real for them.
Right.
So
that one's in my number one slot, but I do have to agree. I think Halloween's probably number two.
The Ring and The Grudge could have totally ended up on my over Friday the 13th and Texas Chainsaw because they are better movies. I remember seeing The Ring in the theater, and then I went home. I know we're on time constraints, sorry, but I remember I went home and I fell asleep, and when I woke up watching TV, and when I woke up, it was on that snow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I freaked the fuck out and shut my TV off right away. It was terrifying. So that movie had an impact on me, which they usually don't. But that one just that one sucker punches you in the face. It's like that movie was scary.
Yeah.
So.
I took that video and I put it on a DVD and wrote on the DVD "Do not watch" and left it in my basement.
Oh really?
And my oldest daughter popped it into the DVD player, and she popped it in. I mean, she had seen the movie prior to that, and she put it in, and I saw that she was watching it, and so I picked up my phone
Oh, no.
and I dialed her. 7 days.
Yeah, they do have. If you have Shudder, it's not called this, but it's The Ring versus The Grudge. It's on Shudder. Not yet. I think it's coming out here in the next week or two on Shudder. If you have that, check that out. Again, I don't know what the actual official title is, but I do have Shudder, so I will be checking that out. And you brought up probably one of my most anticipated movies for 2017 is the new
Rings.
movie. Yeah. So and Rings, yeah, it's gonna be great. So
I saw that trailer when we went to watch Underworld.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, looking forward to that one.
Hit, so.
All right, so let's hit our bad list.
I'll start.
I mean, there's a lot of bad out there.
Well, I'll start because you have one on your good that ended up on my bad. So my top one on my bad was The Crazies.
Oh, okay.
Crazies. I just, you know, I don't remember the original that well, and again, I'll admit I don't even think I watched it the whole way through. I think I saw clips of it on YouTube, but the remake, I was just kind of like, I wasn't super sold on it. But I will admit that I own it. All these movies that are on my list, I own. So they had to have somewhat of an impact on me because I went out and bought it, which my wife will tell you, I'm 100% guilty. I'll complain about a movie that I saw, and then I'll go buy it. So I'm an idiot. The Crazies is on my list.
All right. Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, based on the 1984 version.
You got one on my list.
Yeah. I mean, that one, how can you take such an iconic movie and try to redo it? And I'm sorry, I felt that Freddy was horribly cast.
See, that's the one thing I liked about Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, I thought Jack Earl Haley was fantastic. His makeup was CGI.
Maybe that's what bothered the hell out of me.
His makeup was bad.
Yeah.
And like they did some practical makeup on him, and then they did green screen on his face and CGI'd all like the blisters and shit.
I guess something that bothers me is when you have an actor originally playing it that's 6 foot whatever, and then you go to this actor who's 5 foot nothing.
Yeah, he's small.
Yeah. He just wasn't as intimidating as I would have liked to have seen him. I did like the story though, because I felt that they humanized Freddy a little bit more
totally agree.
in this, but it still didn't hold up to the way, and maybe it's because the original Nightmare on Elm Street hit me in such a way that because it was so new, nobody said, let's get into these people's dreams. The rest of the stuff was a physical threat. Yeah. This one was a threat in your dreams. How the hell do you stop that?
And I did like that they delve in the remake. They dive a little further into Freddy's past, and I liked that stuff. I liked, and maybe it's just beating the audience over the head, but sometimes I just like to get hit in the head with a bat. And they kind of did this a little bit with the remake, where they showed what he was doing with the Elm Street children, and he was a gardener, and like what the parents did to him. Like, they didn't just talk about it; they actually showed you a flashback of what happened.
And that's where I'm saying, that's where it humanized him.
Yeah.
So
yeah, totally agree with that one. That was on my list. I have 2005's Amityville Horror.
That's on my list.
Yeah. Ryan Reynolds, I think is great. The reason this ended up on my list, not because I think it's a bad movie. The original Amityville Horror terrified me. Like, that was a movie I saw and had a hard time sleeping. And I don't know if it's just because, like, I didn't know they talk about how this really happened. And I think that got into my head when I saw the movie, the original. I wouldn't say it's better cast, like the original or the remake. I just think the original had way more, it was just way more terrifying to watch. So. that was me. That's why it ended up on my list.
The remake of Psycho.
Yeah. Oh shit! I did write that down.
Oh, you do have that one on there. I think that's pretty
well.
amazing that we have so many that are similar.
That was a casting thing for me, though.
Vince Vaughn
Yeah.
was wrong. It was wrong.
Thing,
yeah.
Yep. That was again. A lot of these on my list are like, I think, I don't know, like not all of them, but like some, like since Psycho was a casting issue for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do you really want to take a Hitchcock movie and remake that?
Well, and I think that's going to be a topic for another Fright Cast is when we talk about which ones have been made that should not have been remade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just don't know. Like, they should leave Hitchcock alone.
Yeah.
Let him.
Yeah. Is there something so sacred that it should never be touched?
Yeah. So that one's definitely one of them. Except for, I will say, Bates Motel is fantastic. So.
But when you take it, move it into a series as opposed to trying to remake a movie, because didn't they try to remake this movie shot for shot?
I think that was the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And why? Why? If you're going to remake something, remake something.
Yeah, I mean they can't top it, so they just. I think it might have been an attempt to reintroduce to a new audience,
possibly.
And you go back and watch the original; it's black and white, and nobody knows. Like no kids from today know who those actors
right,
were,
right.
So, but they know who Vince Vaughn is,
and they just chuckle when they hear the name Bates.
Yeah, my last one, because two of mine were fucking stolen.
Sorry about that.
That's I think we have some uglies.
Yeah.
The remake, 2011 remake of Fright Night was the last one on my list.
You know, I that's not on my list. I had thought about putting it on there. Who was the actor? The young man was that Yelchin?
Anton Yelchin was in that. Yes.
Yeah.
It was Anton Yelchin, and I can't think of who. It's a famous guy too, which really sucks even more. Who the vampire was in that remake? But I'm not going to say it's a casting issue. It's just like I remember seeing the original Fright Night, and like I loved the original Fright Night, and I was like, why are we when they announced that they're going to remake that movie, I was like, why are we doing that? Like, just leave it alone. The original, like, if you want to watch a great movie, go watch the original Fright Night.
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell is that was a casting.
And I also forgot that David Tennant was in that as well.
So yeah, Fright Night was the last one on my list.
Okay. And, I'm going to rip off a few here because I have like 5 left on my list. The Omen.
Yep.
That was a stinker. The Haunting.
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead.
The 1991 or 92 version?
No. The 2006 version.
There's a 2006 version?
Night of the Living Dead 3D.
Okay. I was going to say, Tom Savini remade the one in 1992 or whatever.
It was 90.
Yeah. I loved that remake.
Yeah. No, it was the Night of the Living Dead 3D.
I gotcha.
Children of the Corn made for TV movie 2009.
Okay.
Carrie.
Yeah, I was debatable.
I think Chloe, whatever her name is, she's Metz, whatever. I think she's a great actress. Kick ass. She's awesome in that, and I've seen her in other things. Not so great in Neighbors 2, but Carrie to me is one of those movies that probably should not be remade.
Yeah.
But my number one, Poltergeist is not my number one, but it's right up there.
I'm so goddamn angry at that movie, and I don't even think it deserves the title of Poltergeist, to be honest with you.
Right. It was bad, but my number one, The Wicker Man.
I didn't see it.
Oh, okay.
I did not see it, so I don't know.
It is not one I suggest for you to watch.
I'll leave it alone then.
Nicolas Cage was horrible in it. You compare it to what they did with Christopher Lee in the original 1973 version. Wicker Man, I think, hits almost everybody's bad list.
Think button,
yeah. So, but since you haven't seen that one, we can't really place that in ugly together. Yeah. So out of our list of bad, what would we put in the ugly section?
Well, we definitely have a couple that match. Since Psycho's on your list, I don't know if it goes in ugly though. Like is it so bad that you couldn't can you rewatch that movie, or would you just shelf that and?
I could watch it, but I wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's not like something I'd say, hey,
Yeah.
let's watch this.
Yeah.
When I have like 600 DVDs sitting there, it's like that's not gonna go right to that one.
So I mean, Psycho. I think what are we gonna do? Like a top 5 ugly?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah,
It's just throw them out there. I think Poltergeist needs to go in that pile.
Poltergeist. Let me look at your list because I have some of the ones on mine that match yours. So I think we can just pick off your list.
Just the bottom.
Stinkers. But yeah, definitely Poltergeist. There was no reason for that.
Yeah.
And
I'm throwing Black Christmas into the
yeah,
pile.
Black Christmas. I'm totally going to agree with you on. So Poltergeist and Black Christmas. I would see. I don't know if I want to throw it because they're talking about remaking it again. So I don't know if I really want to throw it on the list. But Nightmare on Elm Street, I think, could probably play around on that list. I don't think it's the worst of what's on here. I mean, you have Night of the Living Dead 3D on here, and that's just not. I don't know
what they were thinking. Exactly.
There's a ton of other zombie movies out. No one's gonna chase Night of the Living Dead 3D.
No.
God damn. Your list is. Ugh. But we also have again the Amityville Horror is rewatchable. It's not so bad. It's
Well, my wife would definitely rewatch it.
Yeah, well, I know why that.
Because Ryan Reynolds has his shirt off for part of it.
I would rewatch it for that reason. So that's when he's chopping wood.
He's
right?
chopping wood, and there's a couple other parts in there. Yeah.
I remember when I used to look like Ryan Reynolds. My wife would say, "I miss those pictures." So yeah, I don't know, man. The ugly is tough. So, and I can't. Yeah.
Yeah. It would be interesting to get Greg's view on this as well.
Yeah,
that maybe at some point we can have him revisit this and just throw in
maybe we'll reveal
4 minutes and just say, 3 months ago we talked about this and this is Greg's take.
Maybe what we'll do is you can wait, and on the next Frightcast we'll reveal the top 5 uglies that we made a list of.
Yeah, that we finally voted on it as a larger group.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think we're winding down. Yeah. So, any plugs?
Well, usually we are at midnightfrightfilms.com.
Technically, we still are. I mean, you can still go to midnightfrightfilms.com. It just redirects to our Facebook page instantly. So you can still get there. You can still find out information about us. We're moving our site to a new server, so this is taking a little bit more time than what we had anticipated.
Yes, but hopefully by the time we have the new stuff up on the server, we will have at least one, if not 2, new projects in the pipeline and in the works.
Right.
One at least shot, because I think we have something lined up for February. And so yeah, look for that. MidnightFrightFilms.com. Check us out on Facebook. If you got 3 seconds in your day, hit that like button if you haven't done that. You can also check us out on the Midnight Frightcast. Mm-hmm. There's a page over there that you can like as well. And
check us out on YouTube. We don't have a channel per se right now. We have to have enough subscribers in order to get the name for the channel. But if you search for Midnight Fright Films, you'll find all of our stuff posted up there as well.
And again, if you have not done that, it takes 3 seconds. Hit the subscribe button, and you'll get content as it shows up.
As it updates.
And
that's exactly right.
I just talked to Greg about this the other day. There's a list. There's a list of new content that we can make this year. So we just have to chase it all, and we're putting it up on YouTube for free, essentially. So it costs you nothing. It costs you nothing to go on there, hit subscribe. Again, same as Facebook. It costs you nothing to hit that like button. All it's going to do is say, "Hey, here's Midnight Fright stuff."
Free entertainment. Yeah. What else could you ask for?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where we are right now.
Trying to see if there's anything else that I can think of. We do have an entire year planned out, or getting close to being planned out. So we're going to be busy boys over the course of the next 12 months. Yeah, we got lots of things in the works. So, if you're listening, go out, check out those places, even give us some feedback. We talked about some crazy stuff today. So do you agree with us or not?
Yeah.
Give us some feedback. Let us know, because you can either say, guys, you're right on target, or you're full of shit.
Yeah.
We'll take it either way. And we know we're full of shit half the time anyway. So with that in mind, I think this is Patrick saying goodbye, and
sayonara.
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 I guess that's the new way. Peace out, boys.